Throughout the 2017 season, the Eagles relied upon a strong passing game with Carson Wentz, a good running game with Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount, and a defense that was good against the pass and even better against the run. Yet, after Wentz tore his ACL, the team didn't look the same. Sure, they were still talented, but Wentz was that glue that held them together. After he was injured, Foles stepped in and honestly didn't look that good. He played average against the Giants, and then he proceeded to play terribly against the Raiders, Cowboys, and even the Falcons in the divisional round of the playoffs. I actually really didn't like the Eagles against the Vikings, but Foles blew up and helped lead them to the Super Bowl. Going into this game, I had a feeling it was going to be a high-scoring affair, but I never truly imagined they would break the Super Bowl record and NFL record for most yards in a single game. It was nonstop action, it was nonstop aggression. Really, it was just a fun game to watch that was impossible to predict either way. My one thought during this game was how well the Eagles' offense synced together. Their run-pass options looked like play-action passes, their play-action passes looked like running plays, and their running plays even looked like RPOs. It was such a well-balanced game plan, I had no choice but to look at them for this breakdown. In my opinion, there were a few main factors that allowed this to happen, and it started with the run game. The Eagles used a three-headed backfield with Ajayi, Blount, and Clement, and they averaged roughly 6 yards per carry. This consistent churning of yards put them in a favorable position on second and third down. In this play, the Eagles run outside zone to the left. The goal of this play is to reach block the opposing defenders and try to create a crease in this defense. The amount of movement and flow they got was absolutely incredible. The double teams worked seamlessly, and they helped set up the second level blocks to break this run free. Honestly, the number of yards the Eagles put up didn't surprise me. What really did surprise me was the number of points they scored. I say this because while the Patriots allowed the most yards per drive of any team, they were actually 6th in points allowed per drive. I honestly figured their defense would at least stall the Eagles' offense and force field goals to keep this game in check. Or that's what their history showed, but the Eagles kept being aggressive and kept converting to stay on the field. While their game plan was perfectly executed, the Patriots did give them a freebie in the first half. Belichick benched Butler, and after reading comments from him and other players, I still really don't get it. Belichick claimed this move gave his team the best chance to win, but in order for this statement to be true, his replacement has to be a better option. This part is laughably wrong, as Eric Rowe gave up more than half a yard per cover snap during the regular season. Now, Butler did have his issues, but I'm still shocked that they actually went through with it. Looking back even to their game against the Jaguars, Butler was still having basic issues where he would screw up basic play calls. Literally everybody in this play knows their responsibility in zone cover 3, but Butler is the only person that plays man coverage. To have this level of error in a conference championship when you've been doing this all season doesn't look good. It honestly pissed me off, and I don't even follow the Patriots. So again, while I'm not surprised they didn't trust him, to outright bench him even after Rowe didn't play well, this is the big story. To understand this point even further, you have to understand why Rowe starting is so critical to this defense. Now, we've covered this in previous videos, but the Patriots usually play size coverage. Gilmore lines up on the left, while Butler usually lines up on the right. This type of coverage is good when you have two equally talented cornerbacks, and it really helps with communication errors in zone coverage, but you get into trouble when you have a huge disparity in talent. Just ask Bashaud Breeland and Josh Norman what happened when they faced Antonio Brown. In this game, the Eagles purposely lined up Jeffrey on Rowe's side, and during that time, he allowed this deep touchdown in the first quarter. Out of single back, Foles sent Torrey Smith in motion. This gave him the clue that even before this snap, the Patriots were playing man coverage. Knowing this, it gave Jeffrey a one-on-one matchup down the sideline. Rowe took inside leverage before the snap, and he doesn't even try to bump or jam him down the field. This is a clear mistake, and it allows Jeffrey to run right by him. Foles did a great job at placing this pass in the back of the end zone, and if there's one thing you need to know about Jeffrey, is that he is really good at jump balls. He snags it out of the air and scores on this deep throw. The crazy thing to make this point even more clear was that when Gilmore traveled to the opposite side, especially versus bunch sets, Rowe still covered Jeffrey. This was a key third down in the opening drive, and Jeffrey completely schooled Rowe in space. He ran this pivot route perfectly, which allowed him to get open. Now, after seeing Jeffrey explode in the first half, the Patriots had to make an adjustment. By my tracking, they waited until the first drive of the third quarter, for Gilmore to abandon his side of the field and cover him in man. At that point, Jeffrey didn't catch a single pass for the rest of the night, but it was too late as the damage was already done. I mentioned this at the start of the video, but Foles didn't look good until his final 2 games. But oh boy, did he look good in the Super Bowl. He finished with 373 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception that really wasn't his fault. He did a great job of operating this offense and showed the touch and accuracy to make throws when it counted. Halfway through the 3rd quarter, the Eagles were up 22-19. They lined up in shotgun while the Patriots played cover 1 man. Like in Jeffrey's touchdown, the pre-snap motion gives away this defense. After the snap, the Eagles run a drag wheel concept. This play design gives a running back a one-on-one against a linebacker. While this was a long developing route, Foles had plenty of time to read the field and place the ball perfectly into the back of the end zone. While Foles did play well during this game, the offensive scheme really made it easy. It created obvious openings in this defense and gave him easy reads to make his passes. He did make the plays, so don't get me wrong, but when you have a single read option that consistently wins, the true champion is actually Doug Pederson. He called an almost perfect game, and I only saw 1 mistake, and it happened with 2:03 left in the 4th quarter. For context, the Eagles just recovered the fumble by Brandon Graham and ran the ball on 1st down. They gained 2 yards, and instead of the Patriots allowing the clock to hit the 2-minute warning, they stupidly called a timeout. This is a huge mistake because it opens the entire playbook on 2nd down. Think about it this way. If you call a timeout when the play clock will stop no matter what, the Eagles can do anything on the next play. They can run it, of course, but they can also pass the ball without the downside of an incomplete pass. The first mistake on calling the timeout was obviously on Bill Belichick, but the second critical error was on Doug Pederson for not recognizing the mistake. The Patriots stacked the box with 10 people, so the Eagles should have audibled and thrown in the situation. However, they still ran it, and while they did gain 3 yards, a 3rd and 5 when you have to run it on the next play isn't going to convert the 1st down. Now, people have asked me what I would have called instead. In my opinion, something like a run-pass option should have been the play call. The funny thing is that up until this point, the Eagles only ran a total of 7 RPOs this game. For as much as the broadcast talked about it, they ran at less than 10% of their offensive calls. Now, they did run a crap load of play action, which can look like a run-pass option, but the blocking and the routes on the field are totally different. Anyways, so back to the game, the Eagles ran the ball on 2nd down and brought the clock to the 2-minute warning. They ran it again on 3rd down, and they gave the ball back to the Patriots with about 1:10 left in the game. Clearly, they didn't want to give Brady that much time on the clock, but for a quarterback like him, having more than a minute, even with no timeouts, is still plenty of time to win this game. In my opinion, if Pederson threw the ball on 2nd down instead of running it, there's a good chance they would have converted and would have ended this game. Obviously, they still won it, but to give Brady a second chance at a game-winning drive is idiotic to me. Overall, while he did make this mistake, Pederson's play calling and offensive scheme was absolutely incredible in this game. How he paired the running game with the passing game really was a lot of fun to watch. It honestly hurts me to say this as a Redskins fan, but the Eagles should be good for a long time. Well, that's all I have for you. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Starting next week, I'll be looking at NFL draft prospects, and the first one I'll be looking at is Josh Rosen. If you want to pick my next prospect, go ahead and click the link to my Patreon account. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Samuel R. Gold.